Hey guys, it's Mama to Wife of One. I don't know if you all have seen a three-part documentary called Quiet on Set, but if you have not, it is a documentary about the behind-the-scenes action of some of Nickelodeon shows, specifically All That, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, and I think a couple other shows. And it's centered around some of the nefarious things that happen behind the scenes with some of the people who worked on the shows and the guy who created the show, who created also a very uncomfortable environment for some of the women writers on these shows, and just had the cast. Again, the cast is all, these are all kid shows, so the cast are all young people, right? Preteens and teenagers. And I guess some of the situations that he wrote for the show were very inappropriate for their age. And these are shows that I didn't necessarily watch. I think this is kind of beyond past my time. But it was an interesting documentary. Obviously, it's a little heartbreaking to watch, but I want to focus on one of the episodes. It focused on, I believe the guy's name is Josh Peck, I think is his name. He's one of the actors, one of the main actors from Drake and Josh. Okay, so my bad, not Josh Peck. This was the other one, Drake Bell. The show was called Drake and Josh. So Drake Bell was one of the actors on the show, Drake and Josh, and one of the guys who worked on All That and who worked on the Drake and Josh show. He developed an inappropriate relationship with Drake. Now, his father picked up on the fact that, oh, this seems kind of strange. Why is this guy always around? And the guy, sensing that the father didn't like him or understood that, oh, the father is kind of peeping my game, he started getting into Drake's ear. Your dad's a hater. I think your dad's stealing money from you. You should fire your dad as your manager. And, you know, at this time, Drake is like 15 years old, and this is a person that he respects, a person that has more experience in the business than he does. So he's listening to him, and it caused a rift with him and his dad for many years. But that's not the point of the story. Basically, this man was inappropriate. He raped him. He sodomized him, and there's a lot of mental and emotional abuse attached to this sexual assault. So for 20 years, Drake didn't tell anybody. This guy has gone to jail and, you know, charges were filed and all that stuff, but Drake's name was never mentioned. So now in this documentary, Drake is on camera and really detailing everything that goes on, that happened. The thing I wanted to point out was, at the time when this was all going on, he felt like, I'm sure most people do when they're in a situation, that they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't have anyone to confide in. There's a lot of feelings of anger, of shame, there's a lot of things you don't really know who to trust. The one person, aside from his dad, who kind of peeped that something was strange, the one person who saw that something was going on and who was concerned and spoke out about it and spoke to him about it was his girlfriend's mother. He describes a scene where he is with his girlfriend, hanging at her house more and more because he didn't want to be alone with the guy. And the guy, I guess, had arranged to like take Drake and some of like the guy's friends to Disney World or Disneyland. And Drake obviously didn't want to go. So the guy is blowing up his cell phone. After like repeatedly back to back phone calls, Drake is ignoring him. So then the guy starts calling the girlfriend's house number. Back to back calls. And of course the mother's nearby and she's like, that's kind of weird. And Drake answered the phone once and basically like, oh, I'm going to hang out with my girlfriend. I must have forgotten about those plans. I'm just going to hang out with her, and hangs up the phone. And this guy goes back to blowing his phone up. So the mother at this point is definitely suspicious. She takes Drake aside in like a room, like without the girlfriend, and was like, hey, are you good? What's going on? And in that situation, he's so used to just kind of blowing things off. Oh, you know, it's fine. And she was like, no, Drake, really, what's going on? And it was the first time I felt like that someone actually sat down and really saw him and just saw that something is not right. You need help. And he told her everything that was going on. She called his mother and said, hey, Drake is hurting. He's going through some stuff. With your permission, I'm going to take him to see a therapist. And it made me think about how important it is as a parent that you have a village of people that your children can talk to outside of you. I love my babies. And I tell my babies all the time, you can tell me and your daddy absolutely anything in the world. But just because I provide that environment doesn't mean they're always going to be comfortable talking to me about stuff for whatever reason. But that's why they have a village. They have aunties. They have uncles. They have their grandparents. They have that in place so that they have someone to talk to. And even though Drake didn't necessarily know that his girlfriend's mother was going to be part of that village, I love the fact that this woman could have just minded her own business. She could have been like, oh, they're going to do me. That's not my child. But I love the fact that she stepped in and recognized, hey, you are hurting. You are feeling something. I don't know what it is. But, sweetie, I'm going to help you. And I'm sure that was as much for Drake's benefit as it was for her daughter's benefit, because obviously that's my daughter, this is her man. I don't know what's going on with you, but whatever's happening with you, I don't want this spilling over to my daughter. That could have been her motivation as well. But I love the fact that she did not keep quiet. And I think too many times we keep quiet. We don't say anything. We just brush things off. We say, oh, it's not my business, not my problem. And sometimes maybe it's not your business, but it doesn't hurt to just ask somebody, hey, how are you doing? Hey, I see you. I just want to let you know that I'm here. Because she could have just said, hey, how you doing? Or said, what's going on? He could have said, oh, I'm good. And she could have been like, okay. But she kept at it. She understood, like, okay, something deep-seated is happening here. And, I feel like she probably talked to him about, his options. And do you want to go to see a therapist? Let me call your mother. The fact that she called the mother, she didn't have to do that either. But she let the mother know, hey, something is happening. It's up to Drake to tell you exactly what's happening. But with your permission, I want to take him to a therapist because I think he really needs it. And kudos to the mother for saying, you know what? I think that's a great idea. I don't quite know what's happening, but if he was comfortable talking to you about it, hopefully he'll be comfortable talking to somebody else. So yes, please take my son to see a therapist. So I just wanted to give props to that girlfriend's mother, and even props to his mother for allowing this woman to essentially care for her son. And it could have been that maybe she wasn't in the frame of mind to do it, but it's never easy as a mother. I'll just speak for myself. It's not always easy for someone to come to me and say, hey, your son, like my mom's done this sometimes. She has a very close relationship with my son, and sometimes she'll be like, oh yeah, your son told me that he did this and he did that. And I'm like, huh, he didn't tell me about it. And I think before it used to bother me, but then it was like, you know what, I'm grateful that he has a grandmother that is very interested in his life, that cares about his development from an emotional and spiritual standpoint. And I'm glad that he has somebody to confide in when maybe there are things that he doesn't understand, or maybe he needs to, advice on something. Obviously, I want to be the one person he goes to, but I can't be selfish in keeping people away from him who may be able to help him better than I can when it comes to some things. So I just wanted to mention that. And I don't know if you guys even like watching documentaries. It's a little difficult to watch because we're talking about children and stuff that they suffer through. But if you like documentaries like I do, definitely check it out. It's on the ID channel called Quiet on the Set. There were 3 episodes. All 3 have already aired. But yeah, episode 3 is very difficult to watch. So definitely trigger warning. And yeah,